The following seasons of House of the Dragon are going to be absolutely critical for the future success of the Game of Thrones franchise. If fumbled, there is a very real possibility we may see a stop to future productions based on the universe. Let me explain. To understand how badly this could go, we first need to take a look at the original television series. Premiering on April 17th, 2011, initially, the original Game of Thrones series was met with success and slowly gained steam. So much so that the show eventually propelled the franchise to incredible cultural relevancy. I sure hadn't heard about the series until the show, and I doubt many other people who are fans of the franchise now had either. While not only becoming a huge franchise, Game of Thrones transcended and became a touchstone of pop culture. There was a time where the show was so big you could easily see it occupying the same space as Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. Huge juggernaut franchises that it would be uncommon to have not watched at least part of them, and straight up weird to not know about them at all. However, this all started to change with the latter seasons. As I'm sure you're all very familiar with, the showrunners ran out of content to base the story off of. The books ran out, and soon after, so did fan support. One of the things that made the series so appealing was the complex and nuanced plot lines of all the different characters that eventually intermingled into the greater story. Seeing characters who we had been following for several seasons meet and interact was a huge payoff when it worked well and made sense. But in the later seasons, the story fell into this jumbled mess that not only felt rushed, but had characters acting in ways that ran completely contrary to their personality. This is only scratching the surface on the slew of issues in the later seasons. Now, I don't want to make this a 3-hour long video detailing all of the reasons why the later seasons are so reviled, but what's important to know is this absolutely tanked public opinion about the show. It went from being one of the most relevant pieces of media produced in modern times to almost no one caring in a time span that seemed like overnight. Although, maybe not caring is the wrong way to put that. Many of the online communities around the universe quickly began to more resemble hate groups, discussing just how bad things had gotten. I'm looking at you, r/freefolk. To say it had fallen from grace is an understatement. The only reason the franchise didn't completely tank is because of the sheer enormity of its popularity, as well as the promise of a proper resolution from the books. If Game of Thrones had been any other series, fumbling the later half of the story this badly could have tanked its reputation and doomed the franchise to obscurity. Essentially, Game of Thrones was so far and above the scope of a regular piece of media that even though its reputation took an enormous hit, it was able to keep going due to its sheer weight, but realistically couldn't survive much more bad PR. With the show over, fans were left waiting for the novels to deliver what many would take as the true telling of the tale. And the series did regain some of its reputation as we got a fantastic novel in Fire and Blood, which the series House of the Dragon was then based on. The new show in the same universe but several hundred years earlier than the original series, with a completely different cast and circumstances. In my opinion, the first season, for all intents and purposes, went really well. It established all the characters, presented a conflict, and was exciting enough to be intriguing, while not giving away so much as to keep you wanting more. However, that's very similar to how the original Game of Thrones season went. A strong but slow opening with a compelling cliffhanger. House of the Dragon used what remained of the good reputation of the early seasons of the original series to drum up an initial audience. But there's definitely a sentiment of caution presented in the discourse of the show online. People are clearly going in with their guard up and won't get as invested unless given a really good reason. However, it will be incredibly difficult for House of the Dragon to generate as much hype and positive PR until the show is actually over. Around season 4 to 5 of the original show, people were getting crazy excited about the direction it was headed. But when many of the fans started to feel like it wasn't going anywhere good, people began to resent the show. House of the Dragon is going to have a much harder time getting that mid-arc hype due to its predecessor's reputation. It simply will not be anywhere near as big until it has concluded, and only if it goes off without a hitch, and that's assuming it does. If House fumbles in the same way the original show does, people are going to realize this is a cycle and simply give up on the franchise. Viewers aren't dumb, and if you burn them on multiple occasions, they are going to want to stop wasting their time. This time though, House of the Dragon will not have the advantage of being a cultural juggernaut. Public opinion won't go from being amazing to just alright, it will go from alright into the garbage. House of the Dragon just doesn't have the wiggle room the original series did to mess up in the eyes of the fans that badly. PR could easily get so bad that people refuse to watch any show with the Game of Thrones logo on it. The one saving grace is that the Dance of the Dragons plotline has been finished in the books, so at least the story has a strong direction. However, due to the fact that the book is presented as a history textbook, the showrunners merely have the outlines of the story to go off of. While this allows them more creative freedom, we've seen what an excess of liberty in that department did for the last series. series. This really is a turning point for the franchise. If it goes well, a lot of faith will be restored in the series, and I could easily see Game of Thrones taking its place back as a media heavyweight. I wouldn't even be surprised if we got something akin to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With shows like Snow and the Dunk and Egg series having been already announced, Fire and Blood would have more than enough content for 5+ shows, and people have been foaming at the mouth for an Aegon the Conqueror series, which would be absolutely awesome. But if House of the Dragon is executed poorly, it would be hard to see many people caring in the same way. Fans would easily get calloused and resentful, spreading bad PR and turning potential new people away from the franchise. And we all know what happens to a franchise when it loses its fan base. Why keep making content if no one is going to watch? What do you think? Will House of the Dragon have a better execution than the original series, or will it disappoint and leave a bitter taste in the mouths of fans? And in the unfortunate circumstances that it does bomb, would the franchise have any hope for survival?